Financial Arguments. Follow us on YouTube.
Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Well, today on the market, it doesn't look like things are going well. The market is way down, and we see there are many things occurring at once, and the system, this house of cards, it's about ready to come down. And we see the central bankers are scrambling, because we need to remember they're trying to keep this system together with their illusionary manipulated numbers long enough to have a narrative, to have a story of why the economy is coming crashing down. They don't want something coming out of left field, because if that occurs, they know the people are going to blame them, and they don't want that to happen. And we can see right now that they're keeping this illusion alive. Initial jobless claims, well, they have remained stuck at 4-decade lows. And the question is, where are all the jobs? Because if no one's making any claims, you're trying to convince me that people are just saying, you know something, I don't need another unemployment. I'm just going to ride this baby out, and I'm just going to sit here and not even work. Because we know the jobs aren't in manufacturing. We know the jobs aren't in the service sector. We know that people aren't buying durable goods. And we can see right now that people are shying away from going out to dinner. The restaurant performance index is continually dropping. And we see that retail is contracting. So from what we're looking at right now, we are seeing these different economic sectors contract. And if these are contracting, this tells us that people don't have jobs. And it's very hard to convince myself, and most likely you and everyone else, that these individuals who are being laid off, they're not going out and claiming unemployment. It makes no sense. Now, we know a lot of this, these jobs that are being lost are in retail. And you have to remember how the United States government central bankers, how they count the jobs in retail. If you're working in retail and you're working a certain number of hours, and it varies from state to state, and you're getting paid a certain dollar amount, well, you're considered full-time. But when you lose that job, they don't count it as a job loss. They count it as you were working part-time. This is how they kind of manipulate the numbers. So these individuals who are getting laid off, if they're working under a certain number of hours, the reason why they're counting them as part-time is because they don't meet the qualifications to apply for unemployment, but they still lost their jobs. So this is very misleading, because on one hand, they're counting these individuals as having a full-time job, and when they get laid off, if they don't meet certain requirements, they can't apply for unemployment. And they created this entire system like this to fool the everyday person that, look, we have no claims whatsoever. Now, coincidentally, we're starting to see a pattern. And if we go back to 2012, we can see that the claims magically drop off during the lead up to the elections. I mean, it's a sharp drop. Here we are in 2016. We're seeing the same thing occur. And it looks like this is a pattern, because what they're trying to do is make it look like the economy is doing very well. So they put the manipulation into overdrive. We're seeing the Baltic Dry Index. It hit a high of 900 and change, and now it's dropping back down. We have to remember Hanjin, that cargo ship system went bankrupt. It was out of South Korea, and they weren't delivering cargo. And this might have affected the Baltic Dry Index. And we're starting to see that the Baltic Dry Index is now dropping every day, moving back to its lows. We see the second quarter GDP. Well, they finally finalized the number, and it's incredible. It's 1.4%. And you have to remember what makes up GDP. Spending, the consumer that goes out and spends money, that makes up about 70% of it. But you have to remember, health insurance is included in that. If we strip away health insurance, GDP is nowhere near 1.4%. It's near zero, because the health insurance premiums continually rise. And when they talk about increased spending, that's what they're talking about. The people aren't getting anything from it. The economy is not getting anything from it. So what we're looking at is these manipulated numbers, that 1.4%, that is absolutely awful. And that's a manipulated number. We're seeing over the last 4 quarters, corporate profits, they've decreased by 4.3%. So if we put the U.S. economy data in context, over the 12 months, real GDP continues to drop, sliding 1.28%, even with the modest upward revision, and has been below 2% in the last 3 quarters. It's a very strange recovery, because it's manipulated. That's why people can't get a handle on this. That's why it doesn't make sense. We see pending home sales. Well, they have dropped by 2.4%. So we've seen new construction drop, existing homes drop, pending home sales drop. So the summer bounce is dead. It's over. And the National Association of Realtors, Lawrence Yun, well, he has a warning for everyone. There is evidence that is piling up that without more new home construction, the current housing recovery could stall. Well, it doesn't matter how much new construction you have, the housing market is stalling, because if you have new construction, individuals need to sell their existing homes. If existing homes are declining, there's no one going out and purchasing these new homes. So this is not going to work. And if everyone's thinking, well, maybe it's the younger generation that's going to come out and purchase these brand new homes. Not when they're piled up with student loan debt. Not when they can't find a job, they're living home with their parents and they have a part-time job or no job at all. It's not going to happen. The real estate market is coming down. Prices are dropping, sales are declining, and it's getting worse in each and every area. It's not improving whatsoever. Obama's first economic chief says 1/3 of men, they're going to be jobless. And it's going to get worse as we approach 2051. Well, I'm going to say there's going to be more men unemployed. Because right now they're saying there's about 7 million men aged 25 to 54 that are out of the workforce. Well, you have to remember, we have about 100 million or so people that have fallen off the workforce. So this number is a little off here. And if you're thinking like, why can't these people find work? It's because the jobs don't exist. Those individuals that are coming from these high-paying jobs, they can't find work. It's hard to find part-time work. Because we see the college graduates, they're having a tough time getting part-time work. And this is why it's the ages of 25 to 54. And this is going to get worse as time goes on, because we are losing our manufacturing jobs, we're losing our high-paying jobs, and it's all being replaced with service part-time jobs. And eventually, what's going to happen as the U.S. falls into a third world type of country scenario, individuals are going to find it very difficult to find any type of job. And the jobs they do find, the pay is going to be very, very low. This is why they're bringing in a lot of illegals, refugees, because they understand these individuals, they will have no problem working for low wages. And they understand that eventually the U.S. will fall into a third world nation. We see Deutsche Bank, this could be the catalyst of bringing down the entire system. We're seeing hedge funds, investors, well, they're withdrawing excess cash from Deutsche Bank and from internal bank documents, we're seeing investment companies like Millennium Partners, Capula Investment Management, Rocos Capital Management, and about 10 other hedge funds, they have cut their exposure to Deutsche Bank. People are very nervous as what is happening right now. We see OPEC has agreed on the first oil production cut since 2008, and they're going to finalize this in November. Now, there are certain sticking points to all of this. We understand that Iran wants to continually pump oil. We see that Iraq is saying that we cannot accept the OPEC deal, and this might completely fall apart by November. And we see right now that they're continually pumping this oil. There's a glut on the market, and Saudi Arabia is collapsing. And now with this new 9/11 bill that is out there, we need to see what Saudi Arabia is going to do. And this is something that we're watching right now. But something major is coming in the markets. We can see it. It's flashing red signals right at us. We're seeing the banking system completely falling apart. I mean, think about what has happened so far. The Fed told us that they were going to raise interest rates. They did it once back in 2015. They said they were going to do it like 4 times in 2016. Never happened. So they didn't raise interest rates. The Bank of Japan and European Central Bank, well, they're printing a combined 180 billion per month, a record pace, and using it to prop up the markets. We're seeing that stocks are down, while, the corporate media is out there telling us that, oh, this is the best rally we've ever seen. It's amazing. Well, the S&P 500 peaked in mid-August. And if you want to go further back, it's gone nowhere actually since July 9th. Now, central banks, they have been more aggressive than ever. And we know that the ECB, the Bank of Japan, they're printing the 180 billion. We see the Swiss National Bank, they're openly buying stocks outright. We see the Bank of England just cut rates and announce a new QE program. And what we're seeing is the Fed, which they promised to raise rates, they haven't done it. So when we look at what the central banks have done, they have done nothing to improve the economy. They've done everything to keep their banking system alive, to keep their system alive, to keep those individuals wealthy. Because the real economy lays with the people, with spending, purchasing, producing. And as this rapidly falls apart, there is nothing the central bank can do. This is why when we talk about different phases of the collapse, this is why the central bank, they will need to have Congress pass legislation so they can take up the slack of the people. It's not going to help the people. They just want to do the job of the people. Is it going to work? No. But in their minds, what they think this is going to work. Well, we need legislation so we can buy equities now because the people aren't purchasing it. So somebody has to do it. They won't be able to purchase goods in stores. That's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to create jobs. Well, that's not going to happen. All they're going to do is keep the manipulation going. Manipulate the market, manipulate precious metals, manipulate the purchasing of equities, manipulate the interest rates. But the rest of the economy, where people go to work, where people buy goods, where people buy houses, cars, that's all falling apart. Soon, people won't be able to afford any of the health insurance premiums. And you'll see more and more people drop out of Obamacare. And you'll see the other co-ops completely crash. This system that we're in right now is doomed. There's no way out of it. And we can see right now, this entire system is one gigantic house of cards. One wrong move, the entire thing comes crashing down. And if you ever built a house of cards, it looks great when you stand back. Wow, look what I did. I built this out of paper, and it's all standing. It's very nice. Someone adds one more card, moves a little bit in the wrong direction, the whole thing just comes crashing down. Now, it took you hours to build it. Think about this for a second. It took the central banks years to build this economy. It took you hours to build the house of cards. It took 1 second for the house of cards to come crashing down. It will take 1 second for the economy to come crashing down. And this is where we're headed right now. One wrong move, the whole thing's done. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.